Yo, what up, what up, what up? Mario here, Infighting Exchange, Infighting FX, live on YouTube, X, Twitch, IG, excuse me, Facebook, and TikTok. We have a show today. For sure, we have a show today. A lot to cover. You know what? This isn't working for me. Hold on. Check. All right, sorry, a few technical difficulties there, but we're good. We're good. Listen, we got a huge show today, jam packed. All right, we got Crown Jewel this weekend. We had UFC 320 just this past weekend. Shout out to Perea for reclaiming the title and perhaps saving us from maybe not so interesting light heavyweight division. It feels like, I don't know, it feels like after Perea won, the UFC is back. I know that sounds weird. That's not like remotely the narrative, but it does feel that way. I'm not gonna lie about that. Listen, we have Kenny Florian on in about 15 minutes. Nah, man, the chat's open. The chat's definitely open. So I don't know. Let me see. Yeah, it's open. The link you mean? Oh, my bad. Yeah. I got you. So unfortunately, we're not going to open it up until after our guest. We got Kenny Florian, 3:30 at the top of the show, or I'm sorry, in about 15 minutes. And then hopefully Abe gets to squeeze in here towards the tail end of the show to break down Crown Jewel Perth and to see what we got going on, man. Raw was really good yesterday. If you didn't get a chance to check it out, you can check out my recap of Monday Night Raw on Netflix at fightsatw.com. That's fightsaroundtheworld.com. I, of course, do the recap weekly for Raw and SmackDown. I won't be doing SmackDown this week. However, I will be up very early stateside to be covering Crown Jewel Perth. Yeah, and if you are wondering why it's not Crown Jewel Saudi, it's because the Saudis have Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. And that aspect of it has allowed for Crown Jewel to go elsewhere. Perth is where they're going to be, and I am expecting a huge ruckus crowd. Like easily one of the most ruckus crowds of the year. But there's a lot of storyline being set up, right? Roman Reigns, he comes out, he's like the face. We see it. The reaction is clear, and yet he is fully in asshole mode throughout Raw. Jay, Jimmy, the whole thing kind of breaks down. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the awesome Maxine Dupree and Becky Lynch match. Holy crap. What an amazing fight. What an amazing match. Shout out to Maxine Dupree for getting the win. You know, there's a lot of mixed reactions about this. Hey, what's up, Canella? There's a lot of mixed reactions about this, and we're going to talk about it. I happen to think it was really, really good. I don't see why it would be doing that, but you could try it again. I'm not sure. On my end, it says it's working, champ. My bad. So anyway, we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about UFC 320, as I said. We'll talk definitely with Kenny about that. But I have a lot I want to talk to him about. I think it's very fitting that he comes on the show today after The Smashing Machine was released just this past week, starring Dwayne The Rock Johnson, who absolutely murdered the role. I mean, just people are like saying that it's like, like de-sucking to be like, oh, it's an Oscar. But dude, I'm telling you, he does deserve at least a nom, dude. If you're not going to give it to him for an Oscar, dude, a SAG award or something, bro. He's got to get it. He absolutely transformed himself. Like, I've never met Mark Kerr, right? I can't speak to his, personal whatever, like personally knowing him, right? But just the mannerisms and everything I remember growing up as a kid, and then of course watching as I got older. Yeah, man. And I felt like they captured the tone of the time really well, but there were a lot of problems with it as well. And I want to talk to Kenny about some of those. I'm not sure if he's seen the movie yet. He definitely said that he approved the talking about the movie. So I'm hoping he's either seen it already or maybe even got like a sneak preview to see it. But obviously he's familiar with Mark Kerr. Him and Anik have spoken about it in the promotion and lead up to the movie's release. Unfortunately, it didn't do great at the box office. And a lot of people were shocked about that, considering that The Rock got a standing ovation at the Cannes Film Festival. And that was kind of the big hype for the movie, right? And it kind of like kicked off his next like year and a half, right? He's going to play basically the godfather of Hawaii in his next movie, directed by Martin Scorsese, once again starring alongside Emily Blunt, who is absolutely amazing in the film. I have a lot to say about this movie. I really do, a lot. I mean, not just from like the MMA and sports standpoint, but from the relationship, man. I really, hey, shout out Henry Smith. Appreciate you, champ. Yeah, thank you for tapping in. Oh, we're chilling, man. We're chilling. We're just chopping up this weekend's combat sports. But right now, talking about the Smashing Machine and how good it was all around. And I want to talk about every aspect of it as it connects to MMA and combat sports. But I really also want to talk about that relationship. We're chilling, champ. We're chilling. I want to talk about the relationship because me and my wife literally got into a fight like right after the movie got over. Like, and I'm there with my family. We all ended up watching it together. My family, we're all boxing fans, MMA fans, wrestling fans. So it was like a perfect movie for all of us to go see together. It was like 7 of us. My parents went, my aunt and uncle went, my cousin went, my wife, of course, went. And here we are, me and my wife getting into an argument right in front of my family and everybody that was there. And we're doing our best not to like make it loud, but people are literally getting into the like conversation. And she's like, he was a unhinged man. And I'm like, what? Whoa. Did we watch the same movie? And I don't want to spoil anything. I really don't. Because I urge you to go see it. The performance is worth it. There were problems with the film, the plot, and the ending, and the third act. Major problems. Okay, so I'm not going and recommending this like awesome film that you have to see in the theaters. What I am saying is The Rock absolutely deserves your money for that performance, my money at least. And I think you'll all enjoy it from that aspect of it. But I see this woman who is just picking at him in every huge moment of his career. He's getting ready for one of his biggest fights, and she makes it all about herself. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? I've been able to do a lot of things in my life, right? I got to take a couple amateur boxing matches, or I'm sorry, novice. I'm sorry, not amateur, novice boxing matches. I got to compete in a powerlifting event. I've competed in like poker tournaments, like a lot of different stuff over my life, right? I can tell you that when you dedicate yourself to something like that, like something athletic, something that takes a lot of discipline, you have to be selfish. You have to. It sucks, dude, but it's just you have to. And either you find a partner who understands you have to take center stage at certain points in this marriage, because and it's not just about being the breadwinner. Like, so much of this is about like, oh, well, like, this is the job and he has the main. That's not even the point. The point is that he's in a vulnerable position, about to fight another human being who is, for all intents and purposes, the exact same size. I mean, I forget how jacked all these guys were in the 90s. And I mean, it's the most dangerous sport in the world, and don't get me wrong, it's safer today, obviously. And it's been safe for a very long time. But man, it was a different time back then. And just and by the way, he's got this calm demeanor about him, right? Mark Kerr's got this calm demeanor, and The Rock absolutely amplifies it throughout the film, right? So he has this like calm demeanor, right? And the only times he ever like comes out of it is like she brings out of him, and like, yeah, there's a bit of masking there, and there's a bit of manipulating his friends into thinking like things are okay and things like that. But she only ever desired him fully when he was when he was not in a position to take care of himself. So once he was doing well, I think it put the spotlight on her in her own life. And I think that there was a jealousy there. At one point in the film, and again, I'm not trying to give spoilers, and this is like an argument that I'm sure if you've ever dealt with addiction yourself or others in your family or friends, you'll understand what I'm about to say, that there's this part in the film where she's like, you're jealous. You're jealous that you have a problem and I don't. You're jealous that I can go out with my friends and not cause, not F up my entire life. And you're jealous of that. She tells him this. She tells him this like a week before the biggest fight of his life. And you realize that what's unsaid in the film is that it's her jealousy, really, of the attention that Mark gets, right? And not just the attention from fans and MMA fans, right? Because that's one thing. But the real love that like guys like Mark Coleman and Bas Rutten had for him, seemingly, right? Seemingly. Again, this is a fictional film based on, an actual person who lived this actual life. Some creative licensings are going to be taken, but we do know that Bas Rutten and Mark Coleman have a place in their heart for him that goes beyond like training partners, or goes beyond just the like everyday gym goer or whatever, and it's not that you don't create a bond in that situation. I mean, some of the best friends that I ever made as an adult were made going to the boxing gym, competing in boxing and things like that. Champ, stream's going good, champ. We got MMA, boxing, wrestling, all on the docket today. Kenny Florian should be joining us here in a few minutes. I also have editor-in-chief. Hopefully. He said he'll try. Hopefully, editor-in-chief of fightsatw.com, fightsaroundtheworld.com. Abe Gonzalez coming through later. It's Boots Ennis fight week. Maybe he'll chat a little bit about that, but we definitely want to talk to him about Perth and Crown Jewel Perth and all of that good stuff. But yeah, that's on the topic. That's on the docket today. There's a bunch of other like little topics I want to go through. Let me get X on this one. Yeah, there. Who was it? Oh, Scarlett and Cross went on Chris Van Fleet today, and I mean, it was, it dropped today, I should say, and yeah, that was pretty. It was a pretty interesting conversation that they've had, and I want to talk about that later. Specifically, the news that keeps coming out that WWE is losing wrestlers. These aren't people that are getting cut. These aren't people that they didn't want to sign. These are people who either didn't like the money or didn't like the creative. And so we're seeing this more and more. And in this era of WWE, TKO, this umbrella, this huge conglomerate, it is very, very easy, I think, for certain guys to get lost into the shuffle of things, right? There are aspects of this where yeah, you might be better off going to AEW or New Japan or CMLL for a little bit, recreating your buzz. So many people forget that Cody Rhodes was Stardust when he left. And he is only the American Nightmare today because of what he did on the indies. He bet on himself, and it was a great bet. So, the road to the WWE World Title at WrestleMania is not ended by that and that alone. Kenny, what's going on, man? Thank you so much for joining us, brother.
What's happening, Mario?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. We're just kind of chopping up a really busy combat sports weekend.
Yeah.
That just happened and that is, happening again this week with WWE's going to Perth, and they got their crown jewel. They got Roman and Punk and everybody scheduled for that. Boots Ennis, who's obviously someone Crawford is constantly together and linked together, is fighting this weekend as well. And Pereira, he comes back and he reclaims what's his, and the entire world is buzzing. And so we have so much to talk to you first and foremost, but man, thank you for joining us. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
So, first and foremost, I want to go over, I mean, I know I don't have to, tell my listeners about your long and luxurious career. Okay. That said, what I want to focus on right this moment is your transition into media.
Okay.
I don't think that it would be me blazing to say that you are easily the premier or one of the premier crossover guys from being an athlete into media. First of all, congratulations also on a very successful podcast with John Anik.
Thank you.
What was that transition like for you at that moment? I want to take it back to this moment where you're retired. You're only 36 and you're a young 36. You took very good care of yourself. Your entire career was historic for how well you took care of yourself. What was it like having to be behind the desk at that point? Was it hard or was it easier to focus on something?
Yeah, it kind of hit me all at once. I think that first of all, I was extremely grateful and lucky that I had something to do after fighting. Not everybody had that opportunity. I did, and it was awesome. And just to have the opportunity was awesome. However, as I did more of it, I found like the first few months of doing, broadcasting full time, it was challenging because it was kind of, it was a saying goodbye to my former life, which was
Sure.
training every single day. And, it's almost like you kind of get institutionalized and you miss it tremendously.
Well said.
It's like, Monday, I knew exactly what I needed to do. Tuesday, I knew exactly what I needed to do. It's like Monday through Saturday, I had this very specific training regimen that I really missed. And I also think I really missed the competitive nature of mixed martial arts in general. And also, I was also dealing with a really bad back injury for a while. So it was a lot of that. So, which I still deal with, by the way, as far as the back injury. But, I was lucky enough and did enjoy transitioning into talking about something that I loved more than anything else. So if I wasn't able to participate, at the very least, I was able to talk about it and felt privileged that I had the opportunity to educate people about the sport and, share my perspectives on what I thought.
Well, I'll be honest with you because first of all, it's like you never got to hold a world title in the UFC, but I feel like you're pound for pound one of the best fighters that never got the title.
Thank you.
That said, I feel like your transition into this position has helped, the UFC from the Fertitta era to Dana and currently what's going on. And you've helped to educate the worldwide audience on UFC and MMA. Were there any misconceptions that you had going into the media side? Fighters have certain misconceptions about media. Media has certain misconceptions about fighters.
Yeah.
What were those things if you could tell us?
Gosh, I guess I was, I had some experience. I was working for ESPN prior to going over to Fox Sports.
Yes.
And, every organization kind of works a little bit differently. I think that It was a completely different kind of format with Fox in that, you know, it was really more about, you know, talking more like current events and things like that and breaking down fights in a more specific manner, I guess, than what I was used to at ESPN. A lot of it would, you know, at ESPN, we'd kind of like sprinkle our ideas a little bit, give predictions from time to time, but we didn't go so in depth. I felt like with my time at Fox, I had the opportunity to go a little bit more in depth on what I thought and kind of talk about things. We got to interview a lot more fighters. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, like I don't know if there was any surprises necessarily. You know, I think the big thing is just like the back, I guess you know, the things behind the scenes as far as, you know, figuring out what the news stories are. You know, it's like,
Mm.
you know, we're not trying to be controversial necessarily. It seemed that way anyway, but you know, we wanted to talk about things that, of course, would be um, things that people wanted to know about. You know, hot
What was that
topics
pressure
or
like for you from the fighters though, right? Because you always got
yeah,
along with everybody, you
yeah,
know what I mean? And everybody
yes.
respected you. Was it difficult to all of a sudden that you're sharing this locker room with this guy and now months or years later, whatever, you're in a position where you're having to cover a really difficult topic on them?
Yeah, it was tricky. You know, it was especially tricky when I was fighting. When I was over at ESPN, I was still fighting. I was still an active fighter, and my least favorite thing was to give predictions on who was going to win and who was going to lose. And you know, I don't want to
I
offend
still hate it.
anybody. I know, right? You don't want to be the bad guy. I did feel though, as I got a little bit more and more removed from the fight game, you know, as a fighter, I felt more and more comfortable giving my opinion. And, you know, it was like producers would always remind me, it's like, hey man, people are, you know, looking for your opinion, your actual opinion on it. Don't be nice. You know, at ESPN, I think they used to call me K Swiss,
Oh,
like Switzerland, because I was, you know, I wanted to stay independent. But you know, once I got to Fox, I felt like you know, I got more comfortable in giving my real opinion and my thoughts on things. And, you know, as I got more experience and more comfortable in front of the camera, I felt more willing to just say what I thought, even if it was, you know, something negative about, you know, even the organization or whatever, you know, some type of criticism. Not that I ever laid it on heavy, but I did try to give my actual opinion on things. And, yeah, hopefully people enjoyed it, and hopefully it allowed other fighters to kind of go in there and do their thing.
you know, like you have this perceived expertise throughout your career as a submission specialist, right? I think you're as a broadcaster, you have a communication specialist. And I
Mm.
think as a fighter that helps. And so that's why I really think that the guys have always respected, and even when you've been, you know, critical when it's fair, they've responded in kind, I think. Now, I want to ask you about your career first of all. I want to get into your career here. You were a submission viral sensation, right? And this is like early, like I'm talking like, you know, blue Twitter days, right? Like the white bird and all that. Um, Obviously today social media is so much different, right? But what are some of your, I guess, more fond memories of some of those viral moments? What moment do you think if
Mm.
Kenny Florian was fighting today, right? We take you back and you caught that submission or whatever. Which one blows up? Which one didn't you get enough cred for, you think?
Gosh, that's a really good question, man. You know, I was pretty you know, I was pretty much about like the basics, the fundamentals, you know, the rice and beans, as they say in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I was kind of, I guess, best known for my rear naked choke. But I think that the submission or the two submissions that I hit on Kit Cope early on probably
Oh,
would have been something that went viral. I remember I hit a submission, I hit an arm bar at the end of round one, I believe, that ended up hurting his shoulder or his arm. And the referee stopped it, and there was controversy as to whether I got the submission before the
I
bell rang
remember.
or not. And then, you know, there was kind of chaos inside the cage, and, you know, teams were kind of yelling at each other. And then, you know, we went into the second round. He ended up continuing the second round, and I ended up submitting him again with the rear naked choke. So, yeah, you know, that was that was kind of
Yo,
one of those funny things
I'll tell you,
where
Kenny.
yeah.
I'll tell you, my brother's girlfriend, my niece's mother,
Uh,
uh, was a huge Kit Cope fan.
oh, really?
She
Okay.
was so upset at you, but even more upset at how excited we all got. I want to tell you something real quick, okay? And this
That's
isn't a question. If
hilarious.
you want to comment, you can, but I I owe you a lot in terms of my love for MMA, and it's because at a time where I love MMA, but all my boxing friends and family are telling me it's too brutal, it's not a real sport, all these things, right?
Yeah.
And then here comes, Kenny Florian, and he articulates himself well. He's as articulate as he is with his BJJ in the cage. And it was like, oh my God, here's a smart guy in MMA. And it's okay. It's okay to be a smart guy and love MMA. It's okay to be a smart guy and train BJJ. In fact, it helps to be a smart guy and train BJJ. I learned that. I went on to train and fight a novice boxing match. I've done BJJ, powerlifting. And at the end of the day, I've never been ashamed of my ability to, articulate myself, I guess. And definitely you were a person I saw early on that, was somebody I got a lot of that from.
I really appreciate that, man. That's very kind of you. Yeah, it was kind of a funny time back then. I think the UFC kind of would use me for a lot of media and things and interviews
Yes,
because of
absolutely.
that reason, because the perception is that it's a bunch of guys off the street that kind of get in and just start brawling with no technique,
which was so unfair.
Yeah, so it was nice that I earlier on was one of the guys because there were others. There were others.
One of those bridges from the, I don't even want to repeat the saying, but we all know what McCain's famous words were from that era to where we are today. New York welcoming and now about to be at the White House, which we'll get to in just a minute. But I do want to ask you, one second. I do want to ask you real quick about this weekend's fights. I mean, not real quick. I do want to get into it. We saw Alex Pereira reclaim his title. There is a narrative online that he saved the UFC light heavyweight division from obscurity. I don't like throwing out names that people say that about, especially current champions. So I'm going to leave guys off the list, but you know who they are that people say, oh, well, it's boring because so-and-so is the champion. It's just bullshit. You can look at a guy like Mighty Mouse who suffered all that criticism back then. And now, pound for pound GOAT, everybody assumes it. What did it mean? What did this win mean for the UFC and for Pereira? And where does it rank in terms of meaning in all-time UFC rematches? As important as rematches have been to the UFC.
Yeah, I think that this was huge for the UFC. Anytime, you're a huge organization like the UFC, you want to have champions that people love, that is an exciting fighter to watch, and brings a certain energy and maybe some intangibles that you can't quite put your finger on. And there's an energy even when Alex Pereira walks into a room, it's like, he's got a certain something, and the UFC is always looking for that star quality. And I think maybe it's unfair that the criticism that was levied towards Ankalaev, but you can't deny the kind of energy that Pereira would bring to a fight, to a UFC fight. His stare down, his look, everything. It was exactly what they were looking for. And for him to get that win, it means that the UFC has one of their cash cows back. And that's great for them. They're going to be able to make more fights. Ankalaev, I think, was criticized unfairly. I think he was still a fun fighter to watch. For me, I think he was extremely technical. He was really good. He didn't beat Pereira by mistake. He won, through his own merit, through really working hard throughout his career with consistency and all that stuff. So, yeah, I think it was big. And in regards to as far as rematches, I think it was a really big rematch. I'm not sure we're going to see a trilogy in the near future. I think they're going to put that on the back burner for a little while.
I think,
but it reminds me, if we're talking about the 205-pound division, you have the Chuck Liddell, Randy Couture, series. Of course, BJ Penn, George St. Pierre in the 170-pound weight class when they fought. Max Holloway, Poirier. They did a trilogy. McGregor Diaz, it's up there with those. Robbie Lawler, Rory McDonald, Cormier Jones. I think those are the kind of fights that the UFC is looking for. But when you get a guy who has the rematch and wins in that dominant fashion, it's a little difficult to make the trilogy. Or at least I think they'll push it back. They'll try to get a
right
fresh
away.
face. Probably
Yeah.
Carlos Holberg will go in there.
Oof.
Maybe Prohaska, but I think it's probably Holberg. And then we'll see
I
what
wouldn't
happens
mind
after that.
Prohaska.
Yeah,
that was a tough
oh my
showing.
gosh,
I mean,
what a performance.
listen, Roundtree's he's a tough day at the office for anybody,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
But the way that fight script went was even tougher on him.
Yep.
You know, to come back and get that win. I want to ask you real quick, just two, and you could just comment really quick if you want. You don't have to get deep into it, but two narratives have come out. Pereira slept on silk shades the first time. Do you buy that narrative? And then B, Ankalaev's trainer shouldn't do as much talking anymore.
Yeah. So in regards to Pereira, I don't think that's the case. I think he's hungry. I genuinely think he had some issues heading into that fight. There was talk about an injured hand. There was talk about the norovirus. I've had it. I've had to compete with the norovirus. It is absolutely brutal. I don't wish that on anybody. And it's clear he did not fight in the same manner. He seemed like he was sparring out there and not fighting. This fight, it looked like he was fighting. It looked like he was out there to kill, and he did exactly that. And in regards to the manager, if you're a manager, if you're a fight manager or a coach, I think it's always best to kind of keep your mouth shut, unless the other guy is really talking a ton of trash and you want to give your opinion on it. That's fine. But I think it only adds that much more pressure to your fighter, and then it makes you look like a potential jackass if you lose. So
exactly,
it's tough.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well said. And it also just comes so inauthentic. Like, you hear these stories, right, of just running into all these fighters, and they're like, "Oh my God, he's nothing like X," and you realize, oh, it's because that's not him on X. You know what I mean? And so it's like, wow. Listen, I want to get into a couple of more nuanced topics. First of all, the Smashing Machine with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson debuted this weekend. An amazing performance, in my opinion. I think he absolutely deserves some sort of nom during, nominee season or whatever, award season, whatever it's called. I thought there were a lot of great aspects of the film. Have you gotten a chance to see it? And what does Mark Kerr's story mean to the UFC? Or no, what does it mean that it's being told?
Yeah.
What does it mean that MMA is getting its own? I mean, it's not like Rocky. I'm not going to compare it like that. Not at all. But it's getting its movie, its real movie to introduce. And movies like Warrior, they did a great job. But this is authentic. This was true to, the most harshest of bone,
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie, unfortunately, but I know the Mark Kerr story very well. I saw the Smashing Machine documentary way back in the day. I was a fan of Mark Kerr and just would be wowed every time he'd go out there and dominate in the octagon or over in Pride in Japan. And he was an absolute force. And that whole time that I was watching him, I had no idea of his personal struggles that he was experiencing. And I think I say this all the time, Mario. I talk about how the things that we experience outside the cage are way more difficult than the things that we experience inside the cage, more often than not, whether it's, relationship issues, whatever demons that you're dealing with, whatever negotiations with the organization that you're dealing with, those things are oftentimes way harder. The pressure that you have to deal with, the training day after day after day. And I think the story of Mark Kerr is one of, human fallibility, and it's also of persistence and overcoming adversity, not only as a fighter, but also in life. And hearing Mark Kerr's story now and how he's turned his whole life around. And, I remember when I was hearing about, his addiction issues, I wasn't sure that he was going to make it out of it. Why? Because the fight game takes its toll on you mentally, physically, spiritually. And of course, anyone can get CTE. Not to say that was his issue, but that was a concern. He had fought a little while and, later on in his career, he was taking damage. And, my hope was that he was going to make it out of this, and he did. And to hear the story told, it's just a great story all the way around. And I'm definitely curious and wanting to check it out and seeing how the movie was portrayed and how Mark was portrayed. But he is an absolute legend, and I think it tells people who at home that these struggles go beyond the cage for sure.
Oh, well said. Well said. One thing it did was take me back. It really did. I mean, my uncle ordered us UFC 1 when we were kids, you know what I mean? And that was it. I was hooked. After that, I'm getting my hands on, Valley Toro tape, and I'm watching this documentary of the Gracies just going to every single gym and dominating.
Yes.
And I'm hooked, right? And I'm hooked to the lore of it. But one
Yep.
thing that this film did well was bring me back to that era. Now, I think they could have done a better job of, like, it adds to the story to know that Pride, rounds were so much longer.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what it did was show me where this evolution has taken us and where we were then and where we are now. And in between, you had the BJJ era, you had the wrestling era, and you had the Muay Thai era,
Yes.
and infighting. Where are we today in the evolution of UFC? And I know this is kind of a dumb casual question to ask, but where do you think what do you think it looks like in a decade or two?
Yeah, really good question. It's tough because it's funny. Some of the champions that are most dominant are specialists. I mean, you have Khamzat Chimaev, who is primarily a wrestler. Now, he can certainly strike and knock people out, but, Khabib Nurmagomedov and these guys, like, obviously Khabib now retired, but you got his student, Islam Makhachev, who, again, primarily is a grappler and can dominate
exactly where I'm
with
going.
that singular thing. Merab Dvalishvili, right? So these guys are specialists. So specialists still exist in 2025. I think that, whether they still exist in 10 years, I'm not so sure. I just think we'll get a better all-around mixed martial arts package for fighters later on. I think that people are going to be starting it earlier. So we're going to get guys that are awesome at wrestling, awesome at jiu-jitsu, awesome at awesome at striking, even more so than we have today. And we're already seeing that, but I think we'll see that next level of it. I also think we'll see a lot of different trends, and maybe this is my bias coming out, but I do think that there are a handful of truly elite submission artists that are going to that are already starting and are going to get their their feet wet with mixed martial arts coming up. And I think we'll see perhaps the evolution of maybe the submission game coming back into the fold as far as those level of specialists as well. Now, they better be training their wrestling. I think they know to do that now. However, I do think that we could see a new crop of submission guys come in and start to dominate as well. But, either way, I think we're going to see better fighters, more experienced fighters, and we're going to see more former fighters come in as coaches and kind of be that next level of information for those guys.
Man, that's so apropos, Kenny, because the thing is that everything is cyclical, right? Everything comes back around, from
100%.
Pop and entertainment to fashion, art, politics, everything comes back around.
Yes.
So yeah, I think you really have your finger on the pulse on that one. Now I want to ask you, or real quick before we move on to the topic, what is the next story that America needs to hear, or the world needs to hear from MMA? Whether it's the 90s or going to Brazil, what aspect of the lore of MMA should be told next, in your opinion?
Gosh, there's already a decent amount of stories out there. Have they been released to like the masses on the scale of like this Mark Kerr movie? Probably not. I think the story of the Gracies, I think, is amazing. Hickson has written a couple books now, and I think his story would be phenomenal. Hoist Gracie's story would be phenomenal for them to make a movie out of it. I think that those early times were just wild. And I'm sure the Chuck Liddell story would be pretty wild, and his his story.
Who plays Chuck Liddell? That would be crazy.
So I think there's just so many great stories out there, and everything from the amazing accomplishments that they've had to, the tragic falls,
Mm,
there's so much drama in mixed martial arts and things of
really.
stars that can rise and fall, both within the sport and outside of the sport. Like the BJ Penn story is just insane and sad. And some of these other guys, it's like what's going on. So I think there's no shortage of great stories out there in the
Absolutely.
mixed martial arts space right now, and with it taking off. Like it has, I mean, it's never been more popular. You see how many stars are in all and going to all these fights and who's falling. Like, when I was in the sport, it was just growing, but now it's just a whole different level of
Oh yeah.
people that are following the sport now.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And yeah, I think you're right. There's just so many great stories, and all it takes is the right storyteller, writer, director. I really think Severine really had this context of this film. I just don't know if they knew how to end it.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I'm saying. I'm not going to spoil it for you.
Interesting. Yeah.
But and by the way, I've been reading Rickson's book Breathe lately. It's
Yes,
really awesome.
it
Really,
is.
really good
Yeah.
book. So a couple of last topics for you because I do know you got to get out. And listen, when you come on my show, we get you out early, champ. All right.
There we go.
We don't keep you all the way, champ. We want you to come back. So we want you to have a good time here. Listen, fight night at the White House. It is official. Flag Day, it's going to be next year. And the announcement was made. I mean, even though most people knew it was basically official, it wasn't official. It's never official until it's announced. Is what I've learned in my 10 years in the game. What does this mean for the sport to have this kind of event take place? And Rolling Stones wrote a article this past summer, I think it was, talking about how the UFC has become the fastest growing American pastime. Does this speak to that?
I certainly think it does. I definitely think there's this cultural and political movement behind it. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I think that my opinion on this is that, we saw even prior to Trump coming into the presidency, of him, walking into the fights, and it was kind of this huge spectacle. And, even in certain states that lean more blue or more liberal, Trump would come out to the fights, and it was like, this is his crowd. Everyone there was kind of cheering for him, or the majority anyway. It would explode in there. And I think that Trump and maybe that this whole political cultural movement is trying to bring more of this kind of manly perception to the United States back again. And I think that this sport certainly embodies that, right? I mean, it is something that is obviously very male dominated. And perhaps we went a little too far away from that. And I see that, like, these things are kind of being tied together a little bit more.
Yeah,
and
sure.
And it seems like that's kind of the direction they're heading in. And again, but let's say this happened 10 years ago, it would still not be possible to do this. This is happening at the right time because of how big the sport is. And I think some of those other political and cultural forces that are coming into play.
So this isn't to give pushback at all.
Sure.
This is to tell you where I'm coming from as a journalist covering boxing, MMA, and wrestling for over a decade. I am absolutely happy that the mainstream is accepting the sport the way it is. And it's been that, right? This isn't new. I mean, it's been over a decade since we were on Fox. And I say we because I feel part of this movement. One of my biggest struggles as a journalist over this last 10 years is trying to accurately articulate to casuals the line that exists in combat sports that makes it more dangerous than other sports. That's not to say they are dangerous or, like, you know what I mean? Not at all, but they are more dangerous, right? In the same way that football is more dangerous than tennis. Okay. I have had to learn over the years with my own podcast way too early, working for the Boxing Voice way too early in my career, calling fighters bums, calling fighters things that I'll never say again for the rest of my life. Now that I stepped into that ring and I went through 2-a-days and had to spar and had to go through running and all of that. But that said, what I learned is that you don't play MMA. and you don't
Yes,
play
that is the
boxing.
truth.
And so my worry, my biggest fear is that something happens in this event that detractors are looking for to
Mm,
happen. And
mm.
it's not that, I mean, look, obviously the chances are always fairly minimal, and there's always such a great staff, and the UFC really takes care of its fighters. Combat sports does,
Yep.
for the most part. But that said, again, you don't play boxing or MMA. Is that too much? Am I being too, or am I reaching too much? Am I being overly sensitive about the protecting that aspect of the sport?
No, I think you're absolutely correct in that regard. You know, it is a very tough sport. It's extremely hard on your body. And it's different than your traditional sport, right? As you said, you know, there's levels to the game, and you know, as far as brutality and aggression and all that stuff, mixed martial arts is at the top. It's kind of like every other sport, and is an analogy for fighting, of saying I'm better than you. The
Yeah.
UFC is like that literal thing. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah, no, I agree. You know, again, I love that the beauty and artistical nature of MMA, literally art is in the title of the sport,
right?
is going to be on full display.
Yes,
Absolutely. Um, my hope is, because the thing is, it's not about like, oh, just a contact thing, right? You know, guys they get dehydrated, like guys go into bad fight camps. We just talked about all the
right,
different aspects that can distract you. So it's not about just, oh, you know, a really really unfortunate kick or an Anderson Silva moment or anything like that, right? It could be as simple as somebody just not performing that night, not showing up, not being able
right.
to really protect themselves on the biggest stage of their lives. Real quick though, does it need to be Conor McGregor? Does it need to be a big name that headlines, or do you think that they can go pure with it? That's probably a weird way to put that, but I hope you understand what I'm saying.
No, I
Last
think
question too.
I think the UFC is in a completely different stratosphere now, where they don't have to rely on just one or two
Agreed.
people to make it a huge event. You know, this is why they should be building stars repeatedly, and they are. But I think that it all comes down, and to your point earlier about, you know, what may happen, it all comes down to the matchmaking. You know, it's almost like that every fight, but
Mhm.
for this event in general, matchmaking is going to be so important, of picking the right guys to perform, to show that high level of mixed martial arts.
Agreed. Kenny, man, thank you so much, dude, for coming through. We very much appreciate your time, and especially all the time you gave me, man. Man, I can't thank you anymore, dude. Seriously.
My pleasure, man. Great talking to you.
I appreciate it. I hope we get to talk again. Of course, I'll plug Anik and the Florian podcast.
Thank you.
Amazing show. Keep up the great work, brother. Appreciate
Appreciate
your
it.
time.
Have a good one. Take care.
Thank you. You too, man. Listen, that was Kenny K Flow Florian. Just an absolutely awesome dude to talk to. Um, man, I wish I could have. I mean, I had another like 10 different topics with like 5 subtopics in each of them, and I knew we weren't going to get through all the topics, not at all, right? But just, dude, I didn't even need those questions. Like, no. Let me take that back. I needed those questions. Absolutely, I needed my notes, because if I didn't, I would have gotten lost in every single topic we got. I mean, just to understand the sport at the level he does is one thing, okay? It is a completely other thing to be able to explain and communicate that level to the layman's, like myself, by the way, right? I don't pretend to. I'm not gonna say it's easier to cover boxing. I will say that it is very difficult to cover MMA when you have to have at least a basic knowledge of like 5 major martial arts. Um, and so I don't know, man. I don't want to make that claim, because I know there's a lot of my boxing community that's going to get pissed about that. But you know, it's just the truth. And look, I want to clear something up too, because I saw a couple of people in the chat. And look, I am not suggesting that. I mean, I think Kenny's answer was the best that you could have to my question, and that is, you know, securing a night that does not go awry, securing a night that doesn't give detractors of MMA that have been waiting to take that sport down for decades or have been against, its growth forever, the chance to have a bad news cycle. You know what I mean? I was in San Antonio the night Diaz was knocked out on Friday Night Fights and later died in a San Antonio hospital. I was there that night. I was there the night that Aldo scored the record-breaking WC flying knee knockout. The entire event shut down. The hospital, they couldn't start another match until the ambulance came back. And so everybody's sitting there like basting in the aura of one of the most violent knockouts anyone in that building had ever seen. And like you get used to it as a fan. I mean, you never get used to it fully. You shouldn't, right? It would be terrible if you're just seeing like violent knockouts and still not shocked. I don't know if MMA is even the sport for you at that point, but I'll say this though. Those kinds of knockouts are not typically viewed by the vast majority of people that go to the events, right? They're mostly casuals looking to have a good time. And that's great. That's what we want. But it can be jarring, it can be jarring. I don't know. I want it to succeed. I want, obviously MMA to thrive and to continue to tell these stories. We'll get into the Smashing Machine real quick before we get into wrestling because I got to send Abe the link. Hopefully he gets to come on, man, because there's a lot to talk about. Let me see. Oh, I'll put it up. Appreciate you reminding me. So it is in the oh shit. Okay. Yeah, let me see. The link to join if you want to call in and get your call on anything that we've talked about so far, anything we're going to talk about. You know what? Whatever you want to talk about, I don't care. We'll be doing that. So if Abe's not going to come through, I guess I don't know if he's going to come through, but if he isn't going to come through, then I guess we'll just go into and play some WWE 2K while I go over Raw and WWE Crown Jewel Perth for the weekend. But let me see X real quick too. I forgot. Real quick, if everybody watching, if you have not, please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the share, the retweet, the like, the sub, whatever you're on, from Facebook to Twitch to YouTube to TikTok to IG to, did I say Facebook? X? Yeah. All those in between. Live right now. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Shout out Henry Smith. Sure, Rapido. Oh, no, fuck that guy. Let's see who's an IG. Oh, what's up, Chip? Man, I haven't seen you in a while, champ. Appreciate you tapping in. Somebody's supposed to be in school, not on their phone. Bruh. Let me catch my niece back on IG watching my stream. Okay, so the Smashing Machine. Let's talk about it. First of all, it was a good film. It really was. It was well done. Do not let anybody's negative criticism of the story lead you to believe that it's a bad film. It was shot well. It was scored well. The performances were amazing. The way they utilized the score in this film was so well done. The music that they used to actually score, right? It was like jazz, right? And it keeps you on edge and you are constantly waiting for Kerr to blow up, right? And The Rock just, you absolutely forget it's him at times. I know that sounds crazy because he's fucking like 8'9", like 500 pounds of muscle, but I swear to God, you forget. If anybody is going to win an Oscar, there should be plenty of noms in this movie, but if anybody's going to win an Oscar, Bro, that makeup department better win an Oscar. I'm telling you right now, if they don't win an Oscar, it's all bullshit then. It's all bullshit. I wondered if they knew how to end it, right? And again, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but the way they ended it, I don't know. If you've seen the film, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't, then you will understand as soon as you see it. You will get to the end and you will be like, wait, what the literal fuck? That's how they ended? This is the ending? It was all just like obligatory. Like that's the only word to describe the end of the Smash Machine. So while the third act is problematic, while the overall story is not necessarily satisfying in its dramatic conclusion, they did successfully tell the story of Mark Kerr, specifically with his wife. Let me see, Mark Kerr. Dawn. Oh no, Fran. Wait. Oh, that's his old. Yeah, Dawn. So yeah, listen, this was a story of toxic relationships and how you can be set up for failure simply based on who's standing next to you. I'm not going to say that Dawn was the only problem in that relationship as depicted on screen. But from what I gained from the movie, this woman was emotionally dependent on Kerr, specifically on his instability. I'm not going to say she thrived in his addiction, but it certainly helped her to have someone to point at and say, well, I'm not as bad as him. He definitely used her as an emotional punching bag, you know, to like, but again, like, you know, there's these times during fight week where it's like, this guy's starving. You understand? Well, maybe not Mark Kerr in that point, but you know, a lot of these guys are making weight and they're killing themselves to do it. And they're in bad moods and their diets have to be so specific and their water intake has to be precise. And people will never understand how much of a science it is to make weight. Most people will never comprehend how much of a science it is. But in that science, we know that decreasing calories dramatically, water intake, all that destabilizes your mood, all of it. It's like she knew when he was at his most volatile. You know what she was like? She was like a cop whose job it is to like deactivate bombs. And it's like the closer that thing is to zero, the more locked in she gets. That was the vibe. That was the energy. I mean, this guy is fighting for the biggest purse of his career. And remember, this is the pride days of the early 2000s, late 1990s. Okay. Meaning that $200,000 he was fighting for was only going to be, you know, earned if he won. This is a company that had close ties to organized crime and wasn't always straight up with the pay. The era to be an MMA fighter, that was just not it. That was not it. You know, you are working 100 times harder for like 20 times less the pay. And you help build this sport, you know. How many people watch UFC today and it started back then? You know, how many people that actually buy the pay-per-views? You know what I mean? Like I'm talking about customers of the UFC, not MMA fans, right? Customers of the UFC. And how many have bought since UFC 1? Like this is very historic sport, but it is still very much in its infancy. When you ask yourself how long boxing's been around and things like that, and while there are many aspects of MMA that have been, historically covered in the Romans and even before that, mixed martial arts as a brand is new and still in its infancy. And while there are aspects and rules that you could absolutely tie these generations between, again, it's like we talked with Kenny, there is an evolution of the sport, and it's not just how these guys competed, it's how they were allowed to compete. The rule changes. I mean, you go back to Pride and you see stomps to the head and fucking kicks to a downed opponent. Like, it was the Wild West. And it's a shame how little these guys are recognized, right? You think of the most important fighters in MMA history or UFC history specifically, and names like John Jones come to mind, or maybe the Diaz brothers or Conor McGregor, or, like a bunch of names will come to mind, but very few of them are going to be Mark Kerr these days, right? Even Mark Coleman, somebody who actually, continued to fight into a more profitable version of the UFC, I guess we could say that. Not the most profitable, but this is a little more profitable later. But this was the chance to expose MMA to the most casual fan, the fan that doesn't even know they're a fan yet, right? By telling a great story, that's how you hook these people. I hated boxing when I was a kid. I was like 4 or 5 years old and my dad made us watch. And if we didn't watch the fight on Saturday, we couldn't watch the wrestling pay-per-view on Sunday. It was a sadistic thing to do. But then I started seeing the stories that HBO would set up or Showtime would set up or Tuesday Night Fights would set up. And those stories are what hooked me, or wanted me to see if, this guy I invested in was going to win, or if this, or if this fight was going to live up to all the hype, right? And it's these stories that you get that invest you into the sport as a lifelong fan. But MMA is not boxing. And so when you go and you make a movie like Rocky at that moment, right? Fans know that there are 3 minutes per round. Fans know that there are 12 rounds, and likely fans know that it once was 15 rounds. Fans know names like, let's say moviegoers know names like Muhammad Ali and Joe Louis, Sugar Ray Leonard. You didn't have to tell the story of boxing to tell the story of Rocky. Boxing was used successfully as a backdrop to a much more nuanced story. You can't really do that yet with MMA. I mean, how many of these people that watched this movie understood that those Pride rounds were like fucking 10 minutes? Like, how many of these people understood? And those things add to the difficulty that Mark Kerr had to deal with, right? Training camp, getting ready for those long rounds. That is a different type of training. People have to understand that training 12 rounds in boxing is nothing like training 5-minute round, 3 5-minute rounds in MMA, and vice versa. I'm not saying one's harder than the other or anything like that. Maybe there are people that would say that, sure, but all I know is that it's fucking hard no matter what to make weight and to go through a training camp and be prepared mentally and physically on the other end for a guy who did the exact same thing, or should have. I just thought that they left a lot of aspects of MMA out, a lot of the rules. And I think they assumed that great fight scenes, and there were some really great fight scenes. By the way, Usyk looked great in there. He'd get his win and he'd do his like little fucking kick thing that he does. And, it was good. It was good, man. He did good. Ryan Bader did an amazing job playing Mark Coleman. Really, really, man, the one thing we forgot to ask Kenny, and I don't know if he'd be honest with us or not, but I really wanted to ask him if he knows the name of the vampire that bit Boss Rutan. Because I think it's time that we got that guy's name out, or girl, who knows. And we started to, acknowledge that they have allowed Boss Rutan to play himself in the year 2025 or no, play himself in the year 1999 as himself in the year 2025. And here's the thing, I don't even know if they use like any computer shit on him. Like I think they just said, dude, boss, go out there and play yourself from fucking 25 years ago. Like, how crazy is it that Boss Rutan played himself in Kevin James's movie and then came back and played himself in this one? Dude, the acting chops on Boss Rutan, do not disrespect that man's acting chops. Do not. You will sound like a fucking moron if you for one moment question Boss Rutan. I'm pretty sure Boss Rutan could play like fucking Forrest Gump in a remake and just like knock it out of the park. I'm pretty sure he could do a full remake of The Godfather 1, 2, and 3 and give a more successful finish. I don't know, man. He's like the Chuck Norris of MMA acting, dude. But shout out to Boss Rutan, dude. He absolutely killed it. Like I said, there was just so much good about this movie. But God, that third act was the most terrible. You know what it was like? It was like the third act was the finale, the start of it, and then it all went like nowhere after that. God, I want to say, like, I want to like describe what happens at the end too, but I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to ruin it. Listen, the Smash Machine was solid. The Rock's performance was amazing. The story and the plot fell apart and kept it from being a truly, truly great movie. I think non-MMA fans or people with very little MMA experience or experience, they might have been a little lost. They probably were a lot lost with certain aspects of it. I just think that leaning on the idea that people will assume it's like boxing takes away from the idea of what you're ultimately doing in giving MMA its own voice, separate from boxing. Because let me tell you, as a hybrid fan my entire life since UFC was founded, it has been tough to hear both sides talk shit about each other, knowing that it's like somebody talking shit about volleyball and basketball. Like, yeah, there's a net, there's a court, there's a ball, but they're two fucking different sports. It's like baseball and cricket. Yep, there's a bat or a stick. Yep, there's somebody throwing a ball, a round thing at you. Yep, you hit it and you run, but they're very, very different. Yes, there are gloves. Yes, there is a confined area for which the fighters fight. And yes, there are rounds and they're judged. But MMA and boxing are very different. And I just don't know if it helps any to not fully give it its identity, right? I don't know. It's also like difficult to explain the Pride era, I think, in a movie. Like Pride could have its own movie. Like we were talking with Kenny about shout out to Kenny Florian, by the way. Make sure you go to ENNIS and Florian podcast. The ENNIS and Florian podcast available wherever you get your podcast, but you could go to YouTube. I have the link in the description. Shout out to Kenny Florian for joining us earlier, but it was like we were talking, these movies are really awesome and there are so many stories that you're going to be able to tell. I hope that the box office does not turn off future investors and producers and or studios from going forward with these films. And it's funny because like you saw the Iron Claw, right? And those were great performances. I thought the movie was subpar as well. Like it was an okay movie, but the performances were everything. And it was kind of the same situation here, it's been a really long time since a good boxing movie was made, right? And the last one was really shit. Was it the Clarissa Shields movie? Yeah, that was a shit movie. I don't know. We're gonna have to see what's that chick's name? The bathwater chick, Sydney Sweeney does with Christy Martin's story. Yeah, shout out Christy Martin. I worked for her before as a commentator. Me and the whole TBV crew commentated for her cards in Atlanta. Those were awesome shows, man. Really, really fun. By the way, you know what was crazy? So I watched the UFC this weekend, and by the way, I apologize to everybody. We weren't able to stream. We had this issue with and their huge fucking 85-inch screen broke. So of course my dad took it upon himself to get a 90-inch screen and not delivered. Made sure that we were all there to fucking do it. And we get there, we turn it on, and the screen's fucking cracked, literally. So that's where we were with it. The Booker man himself, Abe Gonzalez, fightsaroundtheworld.com, fightsatw.com. What's going on, champ? Appreciate you tapping in.
Yeah. What's the deal, man? I was on a Zoom with the president of Red Owl Boxing, Gabriel Fanous. They got a show at the Commerce Casino on Friday, so just talking to him, and then I jumped off and jumped on here and seeing what the deal is.
Oh, you're the champ for that. Who's the main event for that card? Do you know?
Yes, it's going to be Deontay Brown versus Grimardi Machuca.
Yeah, I saw the poster, I think, on X. Yeah, listen, perfect timing. We were just gonna get into the wrestling aspect of this. Off the heels of a awesome Raw. I thought it was really good. We got Crown Jewel Perth. Abe, there's a lot of storyline here, but before we get into it, I want to ask you something. The last card we got, last PLE was WrestlePalooza. And one of the biggest storylines that came out that was still in the news cycle as of last week was whether or not the writer that gave the show a C was being pressured to be fired. Now, the rumor killer essentially squashed all rumors that anybody at the brass really actually had any problems with it. But, you know, there could be whatever. That said, how important is this weekend's card, being that it's at 8 a.m. in the States? How important is it for WWE to show out in this one?
Listen, I think it's gonna be like a all hands on deck concept, right? Like this is almost like a mini WrestleMania for them. Especially because it's Crown Jewel event, and so isn't that a Saudi Riyadh season pushed
Typically.
event, right? So, you know, they're probably, you know, behind that. And so, and I don't believe the stuff, you know, on a shout out to Andres Hale, cool dude, keeps it real.
Very.
I don't believe none of that stuff. Because if they would have fired him over that, they would have been in hot water. Because you know that would have sent a certain type of signal with regard to message control and all that other stuff. And ESPN don't want that. Even if some of the brass felt a certain type of way, they're not gonna take that moment to do that. You know what I mean?
Well said.
So I don't believe in that. But shout out to him. This show is going to be Australia is being built up as another big WWE market. They probably paid, you know, given how things have been going, they probably paid a top pay to have the event there. Mm-hmm. Reason I believe that is because look at the lineup. All of the WWE top talent is on that card. So they paid the top, whatever that number was, they paid that. So I feel like, you know, there's a little bit of pressure on the wrestlers to deliver, especially coming off of WrestlePalooza. But I think they've set it up to where it's going to deliver regardless because of how they have it matched up. Like AJ Styles versus Cena, like I don't see how that is a whack match.
Yeah. How could it be, right?
Yeah.
No, it's going to tear the house down. I'm sure of that. But I love the word or the phrase you said, all hands on deck, because it doesn't necessarily suggest that like there's this panic mode. Not at all. I'm not suggesting that at all. And I don't think you are either. What I do think you are saying is that this is a more important show than maybe we would have assumed like 2 months ago, right? And I was very surprised that we got that Roman booking yesterday. Maybe probably should have seen it coming, right? Because he was booked, but then you got CM Punk, in this position too. And it is interesting. It very much is. I want to start with Roman Reigns. What is going on? Is this guy a heel? Is this guy a face? Abe, is there potentially a situation going on where there's like a battle with maybe creative and like the top WWE brass, where Roman still still represents this top face appeal, but is so much more cooler and entertaining being written as almost a heel? What do you think is going on with Roman, and what's the more interesting aspect to you? Him facing Reed and dealing with Heyman, or the troubles going on between him and the Usos, Jay and Jimmy?
I think that it's purposely being done that way to kind of throw you off of what the real story is. This is the perfect what is it, like the bird in the hand type of thing. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's telling you, hey,
Good call.
look, we got this Roman thing that you're unsure about and you're paying attention to, but guess what? In the background, we got this other thing called Jey Uso that is kind of giving you something that's going in one direction, but maybe is going in another direction. And those two might come to a head at some point, making it into something even bigger. So that little uncertainty is what's I think driving the interest in what's going on with Roman.
Would you Okay, so the thing that was the best last night was honestly Roman's time outside of the ring, right? On the other side of Gorilla, because these two awesome small little backstage segments said so much. First of all, he acknowledges that he's been listening and watching Raw this whole time, right? And that he heard Jimmy basically confront Jay about listening to Roman. Roman is just being like super ominous about everything. And he's like, I'm always watching. And he delivers this line to Jimmy. He says, when Jay won the title, he became more like me and less like you. It was fucking devastating. Abe, can Jimmy successfully keep his character's respect and be in Roman's side, or does he have to stand up to this guy to matter? I hate to put it that way, but
this is the thing with Jimmy. It's weird because the personality that has come out of him in recent years doesn't match the story of what's going on with Roman and Jay.
yes,
But it does match what Solo's got going on.
oh shit, you're right.
Right. And
Oh
so,
man, I didn't even think, where the hell is Solo? Damn,
but
good call.
Solo last week. What did he say? He said, I'm waiting for that one more guy on his
Yeah,
promo.
I remember that. Yes, good call.
I don't know.
Good call.
I don't know if it's Jimmy. I don't know if it's Jay. I don't know. There's a lot of different things going on. That's what I'm saying. The uncertainty of all of this is what's intriguing. And I don't know if it comes to a head on Saturday. I don't know if it adds to the intrigue on Saturday, if things add to it. But there's a lot of different things that are going on, a lot of different possibilities.
Yes,
So just kind of,
keeping an eye on that. All of it.
waiting to see how all that plays out. Just kind of keep those in mind. Solo talking about he's waiting on one other guy. Jimmy not feeling like he's more like a square peg trying to go in a round hole type of thing.
Oof.
You know,
Yeah.
Jay
Love that
Uso
analogy.
uncertainty of what it is. Maybe he feels like he's bigger than Roman Reigns. Maybe he thinks that, Roman is from the yesteryears, and maybe Paul Heyman is in his ear. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
all these different things, you know what I mean? And
It was
so,
interesting that they left him alone 2 weeks ago.
yeah,
He was very, very adamant to leave Jay and Jimmy both alone. And it didn't end up happening, but still, like, that was the narrative. Yeah, I agree, man. I think you're totally, on with this one, locked in. I'll say this though. It is very interesting to me that Heyman and Roman went on this, promo battle with each other last night, and it was fun. And there was like a lot of little things hidden in it if you were paying attention. The fact that they're still connected is and they're still making it work is I think a testament to everything, really. I want to ask you though about what's likely to be the main event, champion versus champion storyline. These things usually suck, right? Because they're going to fight for this ring that nobody's going to defend, that nobody's going to care about after next year or after the next day. And yet they have successfully told this story well. And you might even argue that WWE's put too much on the line now, where it's this battle for what the future of WWE looks like. And Seth Rollins is more and more coming across as a face. This aspect of the segment last night towards the end of Raw, where Becky's losing her mind and Seth's just staring at his watch, and he's asking Heyman, what if I really lose? And Heyman breaks the scenario down where literally he loses everything. Dude, is it fair to say that if Cody gets over on Seth again, which again, he is undefeated against Rollins, is it fair to say that that puts him always and forever underneath Cody in the WWE brass's eyes?
no, I think that this is playing towards Heyman always being one step ahead. And if Rollins loses, would you be surprised if he 6 Braun Breaker on Rollins
No,
and
I wouldn't.
says, well, you're not fit to be the leader no more. And then you start the Braun Breaker Seth Rollins, rivalry with Heyman behind Breaker. But then, what do you do about the vision? Is that
Yeah,
destroy the vision?
see, that's my thing. Like, what's more interesting? Pulling the plug basically on the biggest storyline WWE created after Mania, or having him get over and wondering what that means, in WWE story lore, I mean, for the future of the company, right? And where it sends Cody after that, to lose to Seth, knowing what was on the line, but specifically both their separate ideas for what the company is and should be moving forward. This is amazing storytelling, dude.
Yeah.
It really,
No.
really is. Who do you expect to win, though?
Cody.
You think they're going to put Cody over for sure? Wow. Wow.
But
Oh,
listen,
man.
but this is the thing also, like, you got a bunch of stuff going on. Like, I like that Cody is his character and story. The way it's playing out is that he's got this mental tug of war between being the good guy and being the not so good guy, and it's playing out in front of us.
Real guy.
So that's like on the side, because I'm watching The Boys. I had never watched it,
Oh, I
but
love that show.
watching Highlander and how he battles with that and battles
Yes.
with, like, I'm seeing that a little bit, play out with Cody some, and I'm just like, man, I don't know, like, I think that the tease of him turning will be stretched out for like another 12 months, but you can't help but to think that, he's dancing that fine line, bro.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Look, I'm going to say Rollins wins only because I don't think the vision's over. I really don't. I think that when you think about it, it kind of hit pause like towards the end of the summer. And it's kind of unfair, I think, after the AJ Lee stuff and the CM Punk stuff to just terminate it like that. Like you might as well have just terminated after that moment, after that match. You know what I mean?
But you know what though? This is the thing. If it's not pushing the needle on those merch stands,
yes, good call.
they'll cut it,
It
bro.
don't matter. It don't matter. Yeah, hell yeah. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But man, I wonder. I don't know. I wonder because it's like there is a winner in Cody that secures the business side of it, right? But then there's this win in Seth Rollins that secures the interest side, right? But at the same time, doesn't a Seth Rollins loss, isn't that more interesting of what happens next night on Raw? Like Rollins wins, you kind of expect to know what you're going to see on Raw. Rollins loses, and they don't give us a sudden like conclusion to that storyline at the very end, like you're saying, sticking him on. You're tuning into Raw. If the PLE sole purpose, other than selling tickets, is to get you to watch the next show, then Rollins losing is the way to make that happen.
And
I don't
Raw
know. This
is
is a
in Perth.
huge. Oh shit! Is it? Is it live? Or is it gonna
Yeah.
be pre-recorded? Whoa!
Well, it's gonna
Wow!
be, I don't know how Netflix is gonna handle it. I'm sure it's gonna be live, but it's gonna
Yeah,
be,
I
the
just had that.
timetable
Yeah.
early in the
Okay.
morning.
Wow! Holy shit, dude! That's crazy. Yep. Okay. I could see some shenanigans going on. Speaking of shenanigans, you alluded to it earlier. I want to talk about this match. I'm sorry, the AJ Styles and John Cena match. Now, I love this match. I'm so glad we got it. But the amount of people, and I put this in both of my Raw recaps since this match was both hinted at and then finally announced. The lack of storyline, I feel, is disrespectful to both of their characters. Now, you can claim that AJ Styles and John Cena are two big enough brands that they don't need a story, and that is absolutely true. But it is not fair to their characters, specifically John Cena on his final run, because this makes it feel like we're just getting it out of the way. Let's just get over with this. It hasn't worked. It sucked. We definitely have exposed Triple H as maybe not being the booker we were all hoping for. And now we're in a situation where it's like, oh, you want this? Fine. Take it. Whatever. I don't care. We don't care anymore. We don't care anymore. Brock got the win. We don't care anymore. You can have the match. That's all going to happen. Fine. Whatever. But then to send AJ Styles out there last night and make him do a promo about how it's okay and it doesn't matter that there's no story, it felt disrespectful. I'll be honest. It felt disrespectful. And I didn't mean it. Like, I don't take it as disrespect from AJ Styles. Not at all. Right. But I feel like it's an insult to our intelligence as fans and consumers. It is a big enough fight all by itself. It is. But it means absolutely nothing in the context of John Cena's final year, final run as we count down the last few matches. What do you think about it, Abe? And am I being too hard on this? Excuse me.
Listen, I told you this a couple weeks ago. When you have somebody that's leaving the company or the business, you don't leave on a high note. John Cena is in the final quarter, the final approach to his landing. They're not gonna do, outside of his final match, everything is gonna be, plug and play. And it's not gonna be like a big deal because he's on his way out. You're not getting more John Cena anymore. You have to put the light on the people that are gonna be there once that guy leaves the door, which they're doing that with everybody else. I get what you're saying though. Like, he should be getting like the mega push story, whatever, all the way out. But that's not how you do business with that. You send the guy out and you give him the pat on the back and give him the kick in the butt and say thank you for all the years. We appreciate you. Okay, who's next? Like that's how raw it is. No pun. And AJ Styles saying that last night was more about, telling the fans that he's not ignoring what they're saying, and that he acknowledges that they have a problem with it being no storyline with it, but also follows it with basically saying that they don't need the storyline. And I agree with him. It's more of a like a fantasy match on the way out for Cena.
Ooh,
And
well said.
you know what I mean? And he's doing fantasy type matches, and I'm okay with that. You don't need a story for John Cena to leave. And
Yeah.
in the trend of fantasy matches, I don't like them talking about putting Gunther in for his final match. That
Oh,
is hot garbage for me. Um, I'm with him and The Rock tearing down in
one
December.
last time, man. That would
One
be
last time.
epic.
But you
Uh,
know what though? I don't see them doing that. I don't
well,
see them
okay.
doing that.
And I want to take this
Unless,
chance to
hold
go
on.
ahead. No, go ahead,
Unless
please.
unless they're saving that one for the November Madison Square Garden one, which obviously
They got
will
to do
feel,
something like that.
it,
They
it
have
would
to.
it would feel like the final match. And if they truly are going with Gunther in December, then it would be the passing of the torch, the leaving the sneakers in the middle of the ring
Yeah.
after he leaves type situation. So you go out with the bang in November and then just leave out out the back
Listen,
door in
I
December.
I totally get what you're saying. In fact, I think that if this is a debate, and I don't think this is a debate. Honestly, I really don't know how to feel about this anymore. But I think you made your point enough to win if this was a debate. That said, though, I I I feel like no matter what, there's no answer to this. There is a demographic of fans that are of a certain age, okay, and they watch terrestrial cable. They do not get on X. They do not get on social media. What about them who just turned on Raw one day and all of a sudden this match was booked and they played some 15-second little clip of John Cena, tweeting, "I don't pick my opponents, but I hear you loud and clear." And AJ, let's get it on, whatever. Um, those people must have been so confused. Those people must have been still must be utterly confused, probably. I don't know. I just don't think that you can justify it because all of a sudden, Vince McMahon found out that Stone Cold Steve Austin was wrestling his last match at WrestleMania against The Rock. And they told a better story in 2 weeks than they've been able to tell with this. And they've had months upon months upon months. So I don't
I,
know. That's
I
just,
think that's also playing into how Vinnie Mac would have handled it and
mm,
how it's being handled by TKO. Two different mindsets. Vinnie Mac was handling the show um, in the traditional wrestling manner, while TKO's handling it in the traditional business manner.
ooh, well said. That is a very, very well articulated point.
Yeah, man.
So
For those that heard that, make sure you spell my last name with a Z at the end when you're quoting me.
exactly. Listen, I want to ask you about this real quick, sidebar, because we did bring up the terrestrial cable stuff. And you've always done very well at explaining this kind of stuff. Everybody's talking about the switch over for the Nielsen ratings and how they are now incorporating brand stuff and online traction and things like that. Reports have come out, the numbers have come out, and a lot of people have benefited, right? Major League Baseball, I think, saw a 12 or 13, maybe 16% increase from last year to this year, and what it would have been under the old ratings. However, WWE and AEW have both reported major drops, over 10% both. And then NXT as well, sparking some people to believe that a lot of those numbers that we were getting over the last couple of years have been totally inflated. There are also those that are saying that these numbers are very unfair to how wrestling is produced and distributed these days. Abe, is there anything you can tell us about that and what it means for wrestling, considering that so much of their deal and the money hinges on these ratings and these numbers?
I don't know about that last part, what you said. I don't know if that's true.
Okay.
I don't. I think that people might be underselling the impact that social media has with these companies, because the story doesn't stop with the show; it continues with social media,
Well
right?
said.
And so, when you combine those two things, then that number or whatever data point that produces is what is really important. Um,
Yes.
I think that the point that they're trying to make is that the singular data point of the Nielsen ratings isn't it isn't the what's valued today.
Okay.
For a product to be considered valuable to a network or something else, it doesn't solely based on ratings. It's it's
Okay.
it's what that tree branches out into, that all funnels into the value of the company that is on that network, uh, and the
Well said.
attention and the awareness that is bringing to that network.
Uh,
Um, you
wow.
mean to
Yeah.
tell now this is what I would argue. I would argue that, or I would say, I would ask, you know, what has the subscription numbers been to, let's say, the CW app since
Oh, yeah,
NXT
yeah,
has
yeah.
come aboard to now, right? Even though the CW app is free, but even though it being free, like, what are those numbers like? Was there a distinct spike in those 2 years? And if so, then that means the company, it could be a couple of different factors, right? But it's still, you can show that it's bringing awareness to the company, to the network, right? And so
Mm,
there's different ways to look at it, but I think that we're at a point now that you have to consider the awareness that the social media engagements are bringing,
yes,
and
absolutely.
what that does to a business partner of the company.
Before we move on to the final topic, I want to say this. You are so right about this, and you just made me realize that it is so important. It's actually more important with wrestling than probably any other sport, specifically combat sport, because of this factor. When you track who's watching, it's not accounting for who's keeping up. Okay. So, for example, for all of those people that have now become NXT fans over the last year or two or whatever, since they've had their, another surge again, I'd say, um, how many of those people are keeping up with the product every week that might not be watching on Tuesday, but maybe catching the Wrestle Talk recap on Wednesday, or, What Cultures or whatever. And so there is that number that's watching week to week, but then there is that possibility that they're tapped into. For example, the Hardy Boys getting ready to wrestle tonight. What's that number going to be? How many people know where to get the NXT on the CW today? I think that number is absolutely greater than what the current Nielsen ratings are showing for NXT. But that said, I want to get your final thoughts on this. Becky Lynch and Maxine Dupree. This was a topic that has really split wrestling fans today waking up. Did you get to see the match?
No, I missed that one.
Okay. So everybody is harping on the fact that Maxine Dupree picked up the count out victory win in a match that went life and death. So many near falls. I'm telling you, you should watch it. It is a fun watch. That said, though, 2-3 weeks ago, we got a match in which Becky Lynch challenged Maxine Dupree for the IC title after laying her out because she wasn't seen as a credible threat. Abe, is this kind of, I don't want to call it hot shot booking or up and down booking, but is this kind of booking? Can you make a star out of Maxine Dupree with a single moment like this? Do we live in that era now where nobody even remembers that they even probably had a match a couple weeks ago or a few weeks ago?
Yeah, I think so. And I'm gonna give you an example, a side example of that. Look at the push that Lola Vice is getting.
Yes. Huge.
Huge, right? And then her pairing with Damian Priest, even though that's more of a personal thing, but now that it's gotten so much attention that people that they probably were both told to make it public so that they can
Ooh.
both kind of grow up within the business. And you see like Damian Priest getting more camera time now, and Lola getting that push. I think it's one of those things where, yeah, hot shot booking, it'll happen in this TKO
In this
era.
era. Yeah.
Yeah, you got the trends going. Your merch spikes. Oh, we're taking advantage of that. Boom, book it.
Well said. Yeah, I really love the match, and the fans were absolutely into. Listen, Abe, thank you for tapping in so late, last minute with us. Great stuff as usual. Tell everybody where they can find you and follow you.
Yo, you already know, at AbeG718 on X, Instagram, and TikTok, at AbeG Boxing on YouTube. FightsATW.com is the website. Fights around the world. And yeah, let's see what WWE Crown Perth has in store for us on Saturday morning.
All right, before you go, AJ Styles, John Cena, last chance to get your pick right. Who is getting over?
Cena, because it's a face versus face match.
Ah, good call. And that's very different from most of their matches, except for the last one you could kind of say, but yeah, good call. We'll hold you to it, man. Hopefully you can come back later this week and talk about the Smashing Machine. Appreciate you, Abe.
Man. All right, man. Peace.
All right, guys. So we are still rocking and rolling. We got several topics left. I'm going to go piss, and we will be right back. All right. So we are back. Shout out to everybody in the IG chat or live stream. Appreciate y'all. Everybody on the TikTok. Oh, you know what? Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and ask everybody on YouTube to please get off and go to either Facebook or TikTok or IG or X or Twitch, and you can follow. You can go to Infighting FX at Infighting FX, all one word, and follow the show along. I really, really would appreciate it. I know it's bullshit for me to have to do this, but we're going to get into some stuff, and I'm going to show some things that I know YouTube's going to trip about. So I do not want to ruin anything specifically for myself. So this is going to be like the 5-minute warning. Let's call it the 5-minute warning for YouTube. If you're on YouTube right now and you still want to jam out with me, first of all, very much appreciate that. Facebook, Twitch, X, IG, or TikTok. Any of those you can go and follow. Please hit the follow button on the YouTube. And anybody else watching on X, Twitch, very much appreciate y'all. IG as well. Man, if y'all could go over to YouTube and TikTok and hit the subscribe, I'd very much appreciate it. Look, I'm not going to say that I'm the most experienced TikToker, but I'm definitely getting better. And I have a lot of, I think, really good videos, like some really funny original content. Stuff on Tank Davis. I have this Ryan Garcia video coming out that's really fucking hilarious. But okay, now I'm not gonna lie about something. I'm gonna tell you all the truth. I am very distracted right now. Very distracted. I just got word that I'm gonna be I'm a proud papa today. Yeah. I'm a proud papa. My my little new baby is on its way. Go ahead and show everybody a picture of her. She's just so beautiful, dude. I mean, just oh, I love her so much. I just see these pictures of her and I'm like, oh my God, there she is. You see her? Let me do this. You see that? That's her. A putter. Not just any putter, a left-handed putter. And not just any left-handed putter, but specifically a... Wait, hold on. Jesus Christ, this is way too many texts. A tailor-made Spider S-Chalk Hill Single Bend putter, 34 inches. This bad boy is going to completely change my game. I you know, I started getting some like new clubs and like some nice clubs and stuff, you know. And it's like it's different for a lefty. When you're left-handed, it's more cathartic when you find a club, you know, because they're not out there. You know, like I go to my local golf shop, right? The place that sells and buys used clubs and stuff. And, you know, they got like a whole wall filled with like used clubs, right? They got like 10 different shelves, like 10 different full rows that cover the entire wall, right? And it's like 6 men's sides, like 3 women's sides. And then there's literally half a side for lefties that is shared with clearance. That is what I go through when that was hilarious. When trying to get a new club. So, you know, it's exciting. These moments are exciting for me. Yeah, no. Yeah, I'm still going to suck. I'm not saying you're wrong. I am going to still suck, but my putting's going to suck just a little less, I think. So anyway, where were we? Let's get into the X of it all. I got a bunch of like bookmark stuff to talk about. If anybody wants to jump on, oh, you know what? Let me put it in. I never put it in the X. Sorry, guys. If you are on X, then you can join the show and get your call off on any of the topics we've discussed thus far, specifically relating to any of the MMA that went down this week, the conversation that I had with Kenny Florian, which again, thanks to him, thank you, a big shout out to him for coming on the stream today and giving us so much time. His debut on the Infighting FX podcast and live stream, and I hope he comes back. I think it was a great conversation, and again, shout out to him. Go to the John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast everywhere you get podcasts, but you could specifically go to YouTube and subscribe so that way you never miss any of their shows. Very, very good show. Very, very great guy. Absolutely grateful for him coming on. The StreamYard link is in the X, just a heads up. So all you got to do is shit. Yikes. That was not what I was going to do. What the hell is going on? Why can't I pin this? Nope, not working. All right, that's all right. Well, it's there if y'all want to jump on. X and IG as well. Sorry, guys, I didn't see that. Thanks, Cliff, man. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the sub. Hey, thank you, Gerald, for the sub, man. I really appreciate it. So how about we'll do this? Look, how about we'll do this? Okay. I'm going to stay on YouTube for maybe like another 10 minutes, maybe 15. Once I'm done showing the things that we're going to go over, I will come back to YouTube for the streaming for WWE 2K25. Okay. So if you're on YouTube, it would be awesome if you would switch over, but if not, then we're going to have to peace out on you for just a bit. Sorry. Let's see. Jesus Christ. Why do I have my notifications on for this shit? It's crazy. All right. Let's see. Dan Raphael has a Substack open today. Let's see what it is. Oh, he has the updated schedule. Oh yeah, there's that Deontay Brown and Machuca. Grimaldi Machuca. That's October 10th on DAZN. Rashida Ellis is going to be on that fight as well. The sister of Rashidi Ellis. Saul Sanchez is on the undercard as well, fighting Edwin Rodriguez in an 8-round bantamweight clash. That is going to be a fire fight, dude. Hell yeah. I cannot wait. Thoughts on what? Oh, thoughts on the Zuffa boxing. I didn't want to get into it. Oh, you're asking why we didn't talk about it. I just don't. Look, that's not a conversation I think for me and Kenny to have together. I really don't. It's not a fair conversation because I know the players in this game. I don't want to say far better because I don't know if he knows, like fucking Eddie and like how well he understands the relationships between Turkey and certain, boxing networks and managers and trainers and lawyers and promoters. That said, though, it's just why? Let me ask you that. Why? What would you want? What would you? And I'm not mad or anything. I'm not. It's felt like I was getting really hostile. No, I just want to know why. Like, what would you want to know about Zuffa boxing from him? Other than like what he's already, kind of said about, is kind of like told the company line for it, right? Because there's like really nothing to say about it. It's not really anything yet, right? We don't know what it is. I think that we got a very orchestrated announcement on that 60 Minutes episode. I think the vast majority of that entire segment was it had certain implications, and he said certain things without saying them. He also didn't say certain things too. Look, I made my analogy a long time ago, right? And I stand by it. Maybe I'm wrong, right? This is where you could call in and tell me that I'm wrong. Please go for it. I would 100% bring you on, and you can debate me and fucking shred me up, and bro, I'll repost that shit. I promise you. Nobody's ducking the smoke over here. All I'm telling you is that Zuffa boxing doesn't really have a deal. I'm not saying that that's like my opinion. What I'm saying is that it's a matter of context, right? Let's say that my podcast is like really successful, right? Let's just say that it blows up overnight, and let's just say that, you know, fucking DraftKings is like, dude, Kenny, that was a great spot you did on Infight and FX. We're gonna buy their podcast, and they're like, oh, okay, cool. And so they buy my podcast, right? Now, the week before they buy it, I decide to spit a 5-minute freestyle on air. I'm actually a really, really good rapper. And a lot of people probably laugh at that, but I actually am. In fact, I was the Boxing Voices Boxing Bars champion for as long as the segment lasted. It was like 8 months. Or no, it was like 6 months. Battled, rapped everybody and murdered everybody. All right. Oh, you think I'm playing? All right. All right. You think I'm playing? That's cool. That's cool. You think I'm playing? No, I'll show you. That's all good. It ain't nothing for me. It ain't nothing but going to the iCloud and finding the clip. It ain't nothing for me. Yeah, I ain't ducking no smoke. But real quick, back to my thing. What I was saying. It's like they bought my show, and I rapped the week before, right? And now they sign me, and I start telling everybody that DraftKings signed me as a rapper. That's not really true, is it? Right? It's not the most accurate way to put that, would it be? But you know, it is what it is. If you want to call in and talk about that's not a topic on the list. So if you want to call in and talk about that. But let me shut your ass up real quick. Who can't rap? What'd you say? Who can't rap?
A minute. Mario, you ready?
Yeah, I start as soon as I go, all right?
Yep.
Yo, I'm Logan Paul when it comes to views. Who gonna stop me? Maybe YouTube, because they might demonetize us for showing Izzy's dead body. And yo, I got a bar that'll stop all this Izzy fandom. And if that don't work, I got a round that'll knock Izzy's wig off like Franchon. People in the chat like, he the reason why Mike ain't eating. No, stop it. I'm the reason why the mic keep bleeding. But my homie's like, Mario dope, man. He's showy real. He's a heavyweight talent. Since Mike dropped off, look at the Holyfield. Yo, you're not Pac. Unless we talking moments after the picture in the Beamer. Your rap style something like John Cena. You're from a place where night skies shine bright because of the stars and dreamers. I'm from a place where bright stars die young like Selena. My whole team filled with MVPs. Ness don't mess with garbage. Do me seated to the right hand of my man on some Gardish. When Stain dropped flames, he got that hard spit. Enrique travel all over the place. James Harden. So if I beat Izzy, you think I'm scared he ain't gonna take me to lunch now? Stop it. Keep your lunch. Your girl cooking me dinner as soon as I touch down.
Whoa.
Yeah, you goddamn right. Whoa. You're goddamn right. Whoa. Who can't rap? What'd you say? Who can't rap? What'd you say? Who can't rap? Who can't rap? Who'd you say can't rap?
I told Ness to serve me my next victim. Get in, hit him. I'm a dog. Ness said sick him. Oh, wait, Ness, you said him sick? Nah, me sick. No healing. We win. Banana clips will leave his cap peeling. Ness, get me the check when he start dealing. By the end of this, greatness gonna wish he had himself a Mark Breland. But no towel can save you now. Knock you out the ring with this wheelhouse. Watch you fly out of the ring like Jazzy Jeff getting kicked out of Uncle Phil's house. I dare you. Say something. Hit you till your face numb. Hooking with left and rights like I'm beating on a bass drum. Now you're done. Face it. You got caught like a dude at the border with the drum full of bass, kid. This is not a game. Stop it. My flow from the sewer, but still the cream of the crop, kid. All you rappers clowns, but greatness, you are not it. Listen, man, I'm not picky when it comes to rapping, but my flow dope like the stuff that goes up the nose of Ricky Hatton. Get lost in your own hype. Of course, scary, but you got this look in your eye like you lost in the forest, Jerry. He hanging on, trying not to drop. Lying if he not. Lying in the spot where he caught me with the pop. We heavyweight talents, but he eye bear the crop. And this right hand will leave your man Harlem shaking like he in a diabetic shot.
Don't tell me I can't fucking rap. Shit. Nah, you know what? Tell me I can't rap. But come on here and tell me I can't rap, though. Do that. Do that. Come on here and tell me I can't rap. I'll respect that. But talking shit in the chat, that ain't gonna help, champ. Especially when I got receipts and clips and bro, don't make me fucking spit a 16 right here, bro. What? I just had K-Flow on. You don't think I'll drop a fucking fire flow for you? Bruh, stop it. Yo, if you don't want that F flow after we just had on K-Flow, then sit down. Touch grass if you need to. It's all right, champ. You stepped on a landmine. You ain't know it was there. Don't worry about it. You all good, champ. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I ain't gonna put that on chat. I ain't gonna put that up, but that's right. Yep. Oh, my bad, Henry. I missed that chat. Yeah, man. Appreciate you asking, by the way. You could go to Infight and FX on Facebook, IG, X, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, and that's it. Yeah. Those are all of them. Yeah. So appreciate y'all for tapping in. Bro, seriously, how old are you? That's not freestyle? What? What? No, dude, I made up every single one of those bars at the top of my head. Like right then and there. Fucking stupid, bro. How old are you that you still think freestyle is like a word that means like off the dome? You know what I'm saying? You know what you got. No. Listen, I'm not even be a dick about this. Listen, you know what you got to watch? You know what you should watch? You should go to what's his name? The football player, Shannon Sharp show. You should go to Shannon Sharp. He just had Big Daddy Kane on. Or I don't know if he just had him, but I just seen it. I just saw the episode with Big Daddy Kane on the Shannon Sharp show. And Big Daddy Kane does a very good job of explaining what freestyle means like today and like how the word has been kind of like taken over and has a completely different meaning than what it was supposed to be. Like he said, it was like originated to be like, this style is free. It's something you kick to the DJ or the, audience at the party, whatever, for free. But that's not to say that it doesn't get often confused with, like in the 80s, I think they would say off the dome or off the top. If you come from the era that I came from in mixtapes, then off the dome was definitely a line that, like a term that was used frequently. And that was the start of it, right? So like the mixtape era, like Lil Wayne came in at a time where the mixtape era was like halted up, right? And a lot of that had to do with like 50 Cent, but Texas had its shit, right? DJ Michael Watts, R.I.P. Screw that he had been passed, but like OG Ron C, a lot of these guys, right? And they had these fucking mixtapes and they would do that and people would talk shit about it. Oh, it was freestyle, blah, blah. It's stupid, bro. It's stupid. But anyway, let's go into some of these bookmarks here. This is something I found interesting. So we talked about this past summer. The announcement of Floyd Mayweather and Mike Tyson had an impact on the community, the fight community. And Roy Jones and Floyd Mayweather basically been going at each other ever since. I mean, it's cooled off a little bit now, but Roy came after Floyd's legacy. And he talked about how, he asked the question, who did he beat that was in their prime? And obviously you could talk about the pretty boy Floyd era, and there's plenty to go off of there, right? Beat Diego Corrales at like the height of his most scariness. But from the Money May era, you could argue that he was just as impressive, if not more impressive, at matchmaking and building B-sides to his A side that checked boxes. You could argue that he was he was just as good at that as he was fighting. You really could. However, for Floyd fans and Floyd himself, it is about never losing. So if you have not lost, then how could you be, let's do it this way. How about that? Okay, so since we started seeing this, like, dude, propaganda has just popped up, and you can really see the people that are like, I don't know if they're paid by Floyd. I wouldn't say that, but there's something there, right? Like, you don't have to be paid to be like somebody's mouthpiece online, right? Like, there's a whole bunch of different reasons for somebody to, grift or gluck or whatever, however you want to put it, right? You could put it however you want. That said, though, this was pretty surprising to see. So this guy puts out Roy Jones getting knocked out literally every time he's knocked out. So let's see it. So that was an early one. I remember that one, not live, but I remember seeing it. Now this is a Tarver fight, and that is the punch that ruined Roy Jones, Mike Tyson. Oh, and just caught so cleanly. And that's the thing. It's like exposed by the basics is definitely how you could put that. Yeah, no, that was a very good stoppage. Yo, I remember Tarver was like, "You got any more excuses tonight, Roy?" Yo, that was fucking great. Yo, that was vicious. Oh, man. It's weird to see these because most of the time as a fight fan, if you're watching Roy Jones highlights, you're watching him do things in the ring that no one else could. But this is like, oh shit, Roy Jones was also beaten to hell plenty of times. This was the saddest one, though, honestly. Or maybe this one. I don't even remember. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was like, I'll get that fucking rope. Yo, that uppercut was nasty. He actually ate that better than I thought he would. Shit. All right, last one right here. Oh, that uppercut hurt. Yo, he was landing that uppercut nice. Oh, did you see that? You see how he shoe shined him before he delivered that? Oh, my God. Timber, bro. Hey, look how he shoe shines him right here, though. Look how he shoe shines him off the uppercut. Or how he uppercuts him off the shoe shine. Look, watch. Bop, 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 bop. Boom. And so what he's doing is he's obviously trying to, what's the word? He's trying not to give him a look, right? While he's trying to get his own look for the uppercut. Breaks right through his defense because he's shoe shining him, right? So you're shoe shining him, and then the minute you feel it stop, your natural reaction is to kind of, the peekaboo or whatever, right? It's your natural reaction. And that moment just gives you enough of a gap to really slip that uppercut in there. But I'll be honest, from all those punches, it looked like he was landing them pretty fucking accurate without anybody's help. All right. So I wanted to show that. It's interesting. It's interesting how the algorithms work. to essentially build up a fighter one day and then play something like this the next. So anyway, let's see, where else are we here? Oh, okay. Here's a very interesting clip. Trainer Joe Gallagher reveals, or he says, who the fight would mean more for between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury taking place today. So, who does that fight mean more for? This is what. Oh, wait, shit. My bad. That's the wrong clip. Okay, here we go. So this is what trainer Joe Gallagher has to say on the prospects of Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury fighting again, or fighting for the first time, I mean.
The career. I'll ask both of you. Who is dependent on the fight happening more? Who needs it more for the career?
Very interesting question. What's he doing over here? Who's this guy? He ain't coming back.
Welcome to the Joe Gallagher podcast.
No.
Who needs it more? Without sitting on the fence.
I'd have to say AJ.
Would you?
I'd say AJ.
I
The manner of
don't
the
agree.
defeat.
I don't
The
agree.
manner of the defeat with Dubois. The
I
manner
don't
of his
agree.
defeat with Dubois.
So we'll fast forward
There's
20
got to be
years.
listen, right? So who's more? Who? All right. As if you looked at their last defeats, who are you asking more questions of?
Yeah, but sorry to divert away from it. That's not really the question, is it? It's AJ Fury survives another 5 defeats on each side. It's not about the last defeat, is it? They exist in their own bubble.
All right, for
They-
their resume
in
and
this era.
for their resume at the end of the career, 20 years, fast forward 20 years, we're here now.
Yeah.
We'll be looking at, wow, Tyson Fury went over to America, beat Wilder, went over to Germany and beat Klitschko.
Of
He
course.
lost to Usyk a couple of times. Anthony Joshua, you'll say to me, yeah, he's 2-time. Name me a Klitschko or a Wilder on that resume.
Well, Klitschko.
Well, they pulled him off a settee after years.
It was it was after Fury, but come on. I mean, you look at, here's the thing, like, I don't know. I don't know. It's tough, man, because as someone who's covered the sport as long as I have, I feel like history will be more kinder to Tyson Fury's mostly dominant win over Klitschko, but it was so boring and so uninspiring that I don't know. Joshua may end up getting more credit in a fight that he got knocked down in, just showing the heart. But yeah, it's
41 years
Well,
of age,
I
or whatever it was.
don't know. You know,
No, it's a good win. I'm not disrespecting it, but do you understand? So if AJ beats Tyson, that boosts AJ's resume right up there.
Yeah.
Tyson Fury loses to AJ. Tyson, that's a killer. But that's the thing. Tyson beating AJ, then does that make AJ's resume even lesser and Tyson even more better? The dynamics of it all. So you just think to yourself, who's really desperate to get this fight so in legacy in 20 years' time we can say I was the best of that era.
Could there be an argument? Hear me out. Could there be an argument that if you take Usyk out of either record, that there's not much really in it, is there?
No.
take
you
him
can't
out.
do it, no.
But so who then gave Usyk the better fight? You're bringing that into it, aren't you? I mean,
Well, going over to America, and regardless of what Deontay is now, no one was fighting that animal at that time, and that's for sure. And
nobody thought he could do it.
and he did it.
True.
And he did and it went, three times it ended up? Three times, and that's where the wear and tear went on that fight there, do you understand? But 3 times he went in there, and that's after going in against a younger Klitschko way back then in Germany. So it's
yeah, that's a bullshit. That's bullshit. I mean, it's not that it's bullshit. It's just like, I don't know. I mean, it was Klitschko. I mean, yeah, I think you got to give Tyson Fury the credit for doing it before, but I don't know that I don't know. I don't agree with that. But I will say this: look, it is interesting. You can make the argument for both, right? Because in Tyson Fury, what you have is a guy who cemented himself as the premier heavyweight of the era, right? Until listen, there were people during Fury's dominant reign as heavyweight champion, coming off the heels of the Wilder win, the final one. You have a lore of surrounding Tyson Fury where a lot of people are ready to call him the best or the most unbeatable heavyweight of all time, right? Not based on skills as much as skills combined with the size, right? This was the era of the oversized heavyweight. And Tyson Fury is absolutely goes down as a prime example of what this era had to offer. That said, though, the historicness of what Usyk was able to do, not only undispute possibly the greatest and most competitive era of cruiserweight ever, but then to come along and do the same thing at heavyweight and never leave a doubt. See, that's the biggest thing that most people miss about Usyk because they hate him so much, or not that they, maybe some of them hate him, but because they got him so wrong, because they didn't recognize how good he was. So they don't want him to be as good as they didn't realize he was. So they'll say things that kind of discredit his heavyweight run, and they'll bring up like some of his first fights, even though he's just getting acclimated to the weight class. And there's just a lot of things people will try to point at when it comes to Usyk, but I don't know. I mean, you cannot look at Fury anymore and have that conversation of, was he better than Ali? Was he better than Frazier? It's a stupid conversation. It's not that it's stupid. It's just like, why? Why not have that conversation about Usyk? That's the conversation to have, because Usyk is the one that is very, very special, rare air special, like once in a several generations type special. Like we'll never see this again, probably similar to Manny Pacquiao's 8 title wins in 8 different divisions type shit. I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy. So anyway, I don't know. I think that you could make the case for Fury, but of course it will be Anthony Joshua. I think that more fans fight over his legacy and what it means. I think there's no denying he's one of the sport's most charismatic stars. As a heavyweight, I appreciate that he basically fought everyone, right? The only fights he doesn't have are Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. And I know that's like, oh my God, those are the 2 biggest names and the best names of the era. Like, not fighting them is basically like ducking the bet, but that's not true though. When you see that he fought Joseph Parker, at the time when he fought him and some of these names, the Daniel Dubois loss will definitely be something that fans hinge on more than anything else, I think. But if he were to beat Fury, I wonder how much anyone would talk about it, right? I mean, obviously you'd have to consider the fact that he lost to Dubois, and Dubois seemed to be the de facto successor to the era minus Usyk. I don't know. It's tough. But listen, we're going to move on to the next topic, which is, wait, where is it? Oh shit, that was not the right one. Nope, wrong one. Okay, here we go. All right, so the fuck, I want to be able to like actually get the right source here. I man, I lost it. I don't know who did it first. But look, It's being reported that the California police or the LA Police Department investigating Rajah Jackson, son of former UFC fighter Rampage Jackson, is about to be charged. There is a rumor that it is going to be 1 felony count. There's another rumor that it's going to be 2 felony counts. And then I've seen a third rumor from somebody who doesn't get it right often, but has got it right in the past, that is saying it is going to be a single felony charge plus a lofty misdemeanor charge that ends up adding to the first charge. Now, I don't know how that works. I don't know how any of that works, but I can tell you that I mean, I prefer you not, champ, but if you want to, go ahead. I mean, I'll talk about it now. If you want to talk about it, we can talk about it, but I don't really feel like talking about that. This is a combat sports show, so I don't know. That doesn't really have anything to do with combat sports now, does it? So listen, there was oh shit. Fuck. I lost IG. Sorry, guys. Hey, what's going on, Ryan? Appreciate you tapping in, champ. Congrats on everything, brother. Ryan O'Hara, by the way, who you can follow on X, is covering the Olympics for I forgot what outlet. Damn. But he's covering the Winter Olympics hockey for a web for fuck, I forgot who. Sorry, Ryan. But if you're in the chat, just or if you're still in the chat, tell me. Or tell us, I mean. No, that's not gonna work, champ. I wish it would though. Okay, so anyway, yeah, I tried to find it. I couldn't find it. But Rajah Jackson is looking to be charged for a felony assault at the very least. They're saying first degree, but I don't know if that's true or not. I look, I think that you can't be overzealous in this case. And that's a big problem for prosecutors when it comes to these kinds of high profiled, situations. Oh, okay. Yeah. If you want to take her, you can. There's a lot of, stuff that goes into it. If you could just close the door, babe. Ash? Oh, if you could just close the door. No, that's okay. So anyway, yeah, Rajah Jackson being charged. It looks like the hammer's about to come down. And it's an unfortunate situation all around. I know a lot of people were upset initially before the facts came out. And it's not that I'm saying that Rajah Jackson shouldn't be charged or won't be found guilty. What I'm saying is that in past cases of high profile, especially with the Los Angeles prosecutor's office, they tend to go after more than they should, right? And then it puts this huge burden on the prosecution to prove a bigger case. So these prosecutors get overly, I don't want to say confident. I don't know what the word is, but they get too aggressive on what they're charging. And instead of securing the seemingly obvious case, they will go for things that are, harder to prove. And I just, the danger of bringing this to a trial and having people misunderstand the nature of wrestling and what happened that night to suggest that he was asked to be part of the show and misunderstood what he was to do It's not that it's a good excuse, because it's a terrible fucking excuse. What it is that it's, juries can be like, voir dire is like this thing that lawyers specialize in, which is essentially like selecting and cultivating juries, right? Selecting jurors, getting rid of jurors that hurt your chances of winning, and then essentially cultivating a favorable jury. In this case, I think that the video is all you really need, right? The problem is, if the video is supposed to show us a first-degree premeditated assault, does it do that convincingly to a court of our peers, or a jury of our peers, or of his peers, I should say? I don't know. I don't know if it does that. I'm not saying it doesn't or it shouldn't, or it should. I'm just saying that a lot of people don't understand wrestling. And I think that you could absolutely have someone dumb enough to be like, oh, well, no, he thought he was supposed to go and beat him up. Like, they told him to. It's like, no, it's like saying, hey, they told, fucking Theo Vaughn to go and take, batting practice with the New York Yankees. And, he fucking has a heart attack on field. No, I don't know. It just seems like bullshit. It's like, telling Theo Vaughn to do that, and then like he rushes them out. You know what I mean? Like, nobody sent you up there for that. You can't possibly think that that's what you were supposed to do. And once you got your receipts, you absolutely went for more. Those things have to be accounted for. And there is no justice if, was it Psycho Stu? It was Stu. I know that. If he does not get his day in court, I don't know if that's the way to put it, but this just can't be allowed to just go down the way some people feared it would. But I will say, one of the topics that I did want to bring up to Kenny earlier that we didn't have time for was this sort of thing that's going on, right? And it's been going on for some time. Athletes are becoming the streamers and the podcasters, and the streamers and the podcasters are trying to become the athletes. You had just last week, what's his name? The like culture vulture kid. What's his name? Aiden Ross. Aiden Ross, you had his fight league, right? Where he's been putting on boxing events. I think he's even put on an MMA event, if I'm not mistaken, or he's going to. I don't know. I don't watch it, but I do know that a lot of streamers fight. Oblivion. We've seen what's the guy's name? The black dude, that Charleston White. We saw the Island Boys fight, or at least one of them. I think they actually fought each other, if I'm not mistaken. It's a circus, right? Meanwhile, you have guys like Rampage, who are full-time live streamers now, who use words like chat and cooked and cope. And it's not that I have a problem with it. It's just like, damn, dude, like, Rampage shouldn't be having to like talk to his chat. Like, that's what I do, because I don't know how to make anybody a great MMA fighter, or like, I don't know how to, continue in a sport like MMA with real value. But Rampage he can right now. He has actual value. Like, this goes back to the Kerr stuff, right? Like, these names are monumental names. And if the UFC is like a great pyramid, then guys like Kenny Florian and BJ Penn and Mark Kerr and, Mark Coleman and Tito Ortiz and the Shamrocks and the Gracies, they all are blocks that make up this pyramid, right? I don't know. It just feels weird. Like, Rampage, look, he's entertaining, first of all, right? So I'm not saying like, oh, it's weird or dumb that he has a live stream. Not at all. I just know that he definitely didn't sign up to be the fighter that he ended up being, to like be forced to be on live stream for like 10 hours a day. Like, I know that wasn't in the plan. And, you know, if he's making the money and that's cool, then he's cool with it. Fine. You know, again, this isn't a criticism about him and streaming. Not at all. I mean, it is something I think worth talking about. The fact that the crossover is just happening at such a higher level than it ever has before. And the level's already pretty high before that. But more and more we're seeing guys lean into that stuff. And it's absolutely because, you know, they don't have any more money once they stop fighting. That's their paycheck. You know, there's this awesome part in the movie where they're interviewing Ryan Bader, or they're interviewing Mark Coleman, played by Ryan Bader. And he says, what does he say? He says something like, they ask him if he, like, when he thinks he'll call it quits, because he's already like pretty older in his career. He's like older in his career by this time. And he's like, well, it's a check. You know, it's a check. That's how I feed my family. And he's like, by the way, there's a lot of worse ways to feed your family. He's right, but at the same time, the pay scale is what I question, right? Like, if a single garbage man, right? Like, garbage men are extremely important to your community, right? And when you're younger, like, that's like a job people shit on, right? It's like, oh, you don't want to grow up to be a garbage man. Well, actually, garbage men mostly have really good benefits that most other people don't. And, you know, there's like a lot of reasons to have a city job, right? I just don't think that you can oh, yeah, you're on. Go ahead. Oh shit, my bad. Hold up. Let me bring this guy on. Yeah. So just so no, you don't have to do that. Just copy the link and put it in your browser. You do not have to download the app at all. You can copy the link, put it in your browser. Es todo. Yeah, so okay. Yeah, that's funny. No, I mean, well, first of all, Rajah Jackson, he was an MMA fighter, and his dad's an MMA fighter. But again, I'm not saying I don't want to talk about what's going on with the Charlie Kirk stuff. I'm just saying that that's not a combat sports topic. But if you want to call in, I'm willing to talk about anything. Yeah, it seems like bullshit. I don't know what else to say. Just, yeah, seems like everybody's lying. Seems like the FBI either completely botched the investigation or they're just straight up lying. I don't know. I don't think that's a controversial take. Pretty sure you've heard that from basically everyone, unless they're full blown, you know, propagandists. Yeah, that shit don't add up. Don't add up at all. No, I'm not gonna. No, I won't play any videos at all. I don't care what you post in the chat. I'm not gonna play anything. It's not about being demonetized, right? I don't monetize. I'm not gonna play it. Why would I? That sounds like I'm not gonna break into a whole other segment that's not planned, that has zero to do with combat sports. And the person that introduced the topic doesn't even bother to come on. Nah, champ, I'm straight. You could do you. So let's see where we are now. Liv Morgan. Oh, yeah. So the John Cena official final poster is out. And it fucking sucks. It really, really sucks, dude. I mean, this whole thing has just been one huge letdown, dude. I mean, one huge letdown after another. So, Saturday night's main event, John Cena's final match, is being scheduled for Washington, D.C., Saturday, December 13th. And Wrestle Talk has this really good video asking the question, is Triple H a good booker? I think it's a fair question these days. We haven't gotten a lot from him, right? And nothing's really been super great. And it almost feels like CM Punk and John Cena have been like booked in a way that it's almost like a punishment how they've been booked. And I know a lot of people are like wondering, oh, is Triple H like still hold a grudge against CM Punk? But like John Cena deserved better from everyone. In a day and age where wrestling heroes are mostly just characters, right? In an era where most people know how much of wrestling is authentic. Actually, no, most people don't. They think it's not. They don't realize how authentic it is because they know it's scripted. And all that kind of like lends itself to this whole situation where it's like, who cares, right? It's John Cena. He's getting out of the way. Abe said it earlier, like they're not going to have John Cena next year. So why would they put enough into him? Of course, Brock Lesnar was going to win. He's the one that's going to be around in a few weeks or a few months or next year. John Cena is the one that's not. But again, in a day and age of faces who do not live up to who they are, John Cena did. He was that guy who was all about the kids, evident by his record-breaking Make-A-Wishes. You know, he was the face that ran the place. He was the biggest merch seller at the time. He was all these things. And he was real, dude. He was authentic. I don't know if he never took gas or if he was never on juice, but I can tell you that he absolutely made it a point to distance himself from that idea completely. And he tried to be a role model for kids as best he could. And he never took himself too seriously, like Hogan and a lot of these other guys, like Warrior, who thought they were actual superheroes, like Goldberg, whose last match we saw. Let me tell you, Goldberg bitched and complained about a shitty final match. And he had some reasons to do so, right? He was right on about a lot of that stuff. But nobody has more of a right to complain about their shitty retirement booking than John Cena. And let me tell you, the night after this Saturday night's main event, what you're not going to get is John Cena going into business for himself. What you're not going to get is him going on Ariel Helwani the very next day or 2 days later and shitting on the program, shitting on the booking. And even if it's shit, and even though it's going to be shit, and it has been shit, he is not going to disrespect anyone from creative to the big brass to the fans by complaining about something you cannot change, nor can you really control, nor do you get paid for it either. You get paid to show up and do whatever they tell you to do. You don't get paid to come in and tell great stories, right? You get paid to come in and tell their stories. And a lot of the times they don't really have as great concept of the character as John Cena does, right? How awful was this John Cena run? Well, it was based a lot on him turning heel in a way that just didn't work. You know, the long-term aspect of it didn't work. Yeah, it was great that night after Elimination Chamber when he kicked Cody in the nuts, but then it literally never got any better than that. In fact, it only got worse. So here we are, you know, a few days away from his final match against AJ Styles in Perth, and they just put it out like nothing. Saturday Night Main Event, John Cena's last match. Yep, no storyline, just last match, probably against Gunther, and that's whack. I don't know, dude. I don't know. We do have Fight Week. Boots Ennis is live this week. And let's see. Where is it? Oh, shit. Okay, I lost the thing. I lost the footage. Well, shit. That's all right. You know what? Fuck. I'm going to have to get out anyway. All right, guys. Listen, I'm going to have to cut out on the boot stuff. We'll do it tomorrow for sure. And we will come back to play some WWE 2K25. I'm going to have to in-stream for a couple hours before I come back. Got to go take care of something real quick and pick up the newest addition to the family, my putter. And so, yeah, appreciate everybody tapping in Fight and FX, all platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X, IG, and TikTok. Shout out to Kenny Florian for an incredible interview. If you didn't get to catch it, please go back to the beginning. For everybody watching on live or playback, please hit that like, please hit that subscribe, that follow, please hit the retweet, share this. We are at this stage where the show is growing, but I need you. I need the community to, keep pushing. So yeah, for everybody tuned in, appreciate you. Infighting FX is the channel. We'll be back tomorrow with everything that we missed today. Peace.